Walk with me through the cellar door.
The storm is coming, Francis.
A portal to a more skeptical world.
Cellar Door Skeptics begins right now. Prepare for the revolution with your hosts, Christopher Tanner and Chris Hanna.
Oh, welcome to another episode of Cellar Door Skeptics. Thank you all so much for joining me tonight. Tonight, we have a very interesting discussion. It's going to go a little different, I think, than everybody supposes. We named the episode Rule of Two for a specific reason, to discuss whether I think Biden and Bernie are just two people that are part of the Sith generation.
Rise, my apprentice.
But before
Lord
we get
Vader.
into that, I think it's really funny because we're also going to talk about the coronavirus, obviously, because that has affected the lives of everybody. If you live in Michigan, your schools are shut down. No questions asked, gone, done. They eliminated them as of Thursday night at like 11 o'clock, I believe. I believe the governor came out at about 11 o'clock and said, yep, we're shutting schools down starting Monday for a month.
Oh, Jesus. See,
Yeah.
in Alberta, they just basically all staff and employees have to go in, or are still expected to go in as far as they know. But yeah, no students are allowed to go to school. And they just said indefinitely. So they didn't put a time frame on it.
Yeah. And you guys don't even have that many outbreaks as we do. And we'll get to that. We will get to that. And then that's a funny thing because my buddy's reading The Stand again. Obviously, because if you know the book, The Stand by Stephen King, it's basically about a super flu that wipes out all of humanity, except for like 4 or 5% of the population in one of the dimensions. And one of the famous quotes from it is, that wasn't any act of God. That was an act of pure human fuckery.
Nice.
And the funny thing is, 4 days ago, Stephen King was tweeting and he goes, all right, folks, it's not The Stand. That's not what's happening right now. But based on what Simpsons are predicting and what they've had episodes about, it almost kind of feels like maybe Stephen King's next, you know? I don't know.
Did he tweet saying that his book wasn't relevant?
It's not happening. Yeah, that's what he said.
It's one of those things that, like, whenever something this big happens, like the guys who write like Stephen King writes, you know, apocalyptic things come out of nowhere or something like that. That's an example in this book from The Stand. Like these kinds of things, like, you know, you'll attribute them. Like we look for patterns. That's what human brain does really efficiently. So like it's awesome that just is a leading example as to why his book is something that lasts as long as it has, because it's, you know, it can catch pretty much anything, and with it is surprisingly similar in this case. But still, it's, I don't know, it's cool, but it's just like any other situation or story where people are just kind of like seeing some of the similarities. Or the V for Vendetta is another example where mysterious virus essentially takes over, and then all of a sudden they have a cure, and one group of people that look really amazing because they cured it, they take over the entire world's economic system. You know, this could be in our near future, who knows, you know. So like any of those kinds of stories there, it can get a little bit weird too.
Exactly.
Except that what we can't, it was designed and released by the governing parties who were trying to take control, right?
Well, yeah, and then that's like if you're gonna ride down, you know, conspiracy theory alley here, you know, there's all kinds of people that are saying that this is something that was designed and created, and it's one of the reasons why the Chinese haven't had any new outbreaks in Wuhan, and there's all kinds of stuff where people are looking for patterns again, and you know they're gonna find them. If you look hard enough, you'll find them. There's a book out there. I never remember the title, but there's a book of all it is similarities between Lincoln and Kennedy, because there were the only two presidents assassinated. And if you spend enough time looking for things, you'll find a book full of things that are unerringly, like freakishly similar between their two lives. But like that's another thing. If you fine tooth comb, you can find the things that you're looking for over time. It's like they completely ignore all of the things that didn't even remotely match up. So this could be another thing in the same vein. It's like it's really cool. And maybe the Stephen King stuff could give us an idea of kind of like maybe what we should and shouldn't do. But we shouldn't create two camps where one is crazy and one's not. But I guess I mean I enjoyed watching Waterworld and Mad Max, so there's some things there.
Yay. Sorry, I was just going through Stephen King's Twitter and he said people are preparing for a shitpocalypse. And it kind of made me, snicker.
Well, that's definitely a fun way to say it, I guess.
Yeah. The other thing is you don't have to worry about touching your face if you wear someone else's.
Yeah, I've seen that one with Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
There you go.
I've already shared that.
Ed Gein was definitely worried about transmutable diseases.
Oh, clearly he must have been. That's clearly what he was all about. He was prepared. He was ahead of his time, and we locked him away.
He saw 7 layers of skin, and he thought, why not 14?
A little is good. More must be better.
Anyway, so tonight the debates happen, and we watched them. At least 2 of us did. The
I'm sorry to hear
Canadian
that.
might not have been.
The only thing I didn't see was the closing.
car.
The only thing I didn't see was the closing arguments. I was streaming someone's watch party, and so it just went to crap on me. And it just dumped off right at that point. And so I did not see the closing arguments. I do know that our conversation, wherever it goes, and any other analysis for the rest of this entire news cycle about the debate will be completely and overshadowed by Biden's commitment to his VP's gender. That'll be the one. That's the one thing that I've seen that he committed to having a female VP, and that's probably going to be the thing that just is without question the leading headline. Like he won the headline without question there, and that's going to be the one that's going to lead for everything and everyone on that topic.
But are you telling me that Bernie's best way is to go further ahead and possibly grab a woman of color?
Well, they're saying that Biden is going to, everybody that I've seen online, but Bernie, he didn't commit to anyone. And so, obviously, if you can't make the announcement or make a commitment there, they're going to say that, Bernie's looking at, something that's lesser than being as diverse as Biden's decision with picking women, like committing to it. So, yeah. I mean, it was a smart move, very good strategy.
It's just frustrating because it's like, you have to make a decision on that now because everybody just wants a decision to be made and everybody expects decisive action instead of, thoughtful consideration.
Well, I mean, technically they should all they should be kind of a little ways down the line of making that decision. I mean, this shouldn't be something that's like, oh, wow, we have to figure this out now. They should kind of be working on it. I don't know. We'll see if they, if either one of them comes out with a name soon, but I don't know exactly what the usual length is for that. As far as I remember, it wasn't usually too much earlier than the DNC convention. I don't remember too many cases where they really went a long ways away. Like at this point in the cycle, I don't remember a lot of announcements in that for a candidate for vice president in my personal memory. That's usually closer to the convention when there's a pretty good, solid case for one of the candidates over the other.
Yeah. So I think that's what we want to get into, right? And I think so. Tongue in cheek here, I started off by saying the rule of 2, right? And if we go look up what the rule of 2 is, and this is going to get into some Star Wars, mythology here for a second, and it's kind of funny because my son and I have been rewatching the Clone Wars. And as well, at the exact same time, we've been, we have that board game, Star Wars Destiny that we play, and the new set just dropped last week, and guess one of the main characters is Darth Bane, right?
Yes.
And so Darth Bane said, two, there should be no more, no less, one to embody power, the other to crave it, right? And that's the funny thing here is when we look at these things, the reason the Sith chose that was because of the crazy upheaval of Dark Force power that basically ultimately led to some of their end. So to recreate it, the only way you can have it is to have two people. And I almost feel like the debate was like that, right? Like that's how I felt. And it part of it's because I chose Elizabeth Warren originally. He's no longer in it. One of our fellow mates chose Andrew Yang. He's no longer in it. And when I watched them tonight, it was like looking at two old people sit here and bicker about almost the exact same thing in just a different way. And it was ridiculous.
One thing that I did like finally is that this is the first one where they've had conversations that were more than a statement and then a response. Like they went back and forth 4 or 5 times on the same topic, kind of battering. And one thing I didn't like is when they kept saying the same thing to each other. That was frustrating. When the Bernie and Joe conversation about Joe saying that they needed to cut Medicare, Medicaid for some kind of budgetary decision that was being made. And Bernie asked him, "Did you not say this on YouTube?" And Joe said, "No, I didn't say it on YouTube." And then Bernie says, "Really? You're going to say you didn't say it on YouTube?" And then Joe says, "No, I did not say it on YouTube." And then obviously we all know that this is a case where there's a contextual thing that Joe was trying to be strategic and whatever. And Bernie was saying that, no, you actually said it online on the YouTubes. And so like, they're finally getting down to like some very specific details as into the history, which is something that I do thoroughly enjoy. I like seeing the conversation get very specific. That's the whole point. But it definitely wasn't charismatic. Like it wasn't where you're like, wow, this is like a really deep intellectual conversation. It's like, can we move to the next thing a little bit? I don't know. It's kind of, it seemed like it was shallow, or it was like they were both trying to specifically maneuver still. It wasn't like it was like a conversation. It was like strategy and, trying to make sure that you didn't step into each other's holes, which is like whenever we do a debate on any kind of religious thing, it's like someone does an if and then we tiptoe in. So it's like, it's like fencing as opposed to like broadsword fighting.
Yeah, and I think, the funny thing here, right, is that the discussions they were having, obviously, again, were centered around, the virus. I mean, that's the thing. That's what they centered it around. But the problem I had with some of this, and I made a little bit of notes while I was watching it, is they were saying very similar things. All they were spending their time doing, to some extent, is, and this is just my feel, is that Biden was basically saying, what can I do for you today without looking at the future, because it can wait until after this crisis. Mm-hmm. And Bernie is saying, if you elect me, we can look at the future because it will fix the present. And we don't have to talk about the present because the future is what's going to fix everything. And they're both wrong. Like they're both 100% wrong when it comes to that. And that's why when we talk about this, I see the Sith comparison, right? Because Bernie sitting here, that's Palpatine to some extent, right? Palpatine looks towards the future, and I'm gonna characterize him like that because to some extent I'm kind of sick of him and his followers. To some extent, I just am. I'm sick of the trashy people. I mean, Boyce posted something online about voting. I saw that. In the election for Yang. And while I personally changed my vote for Elizabeth Warren, that was my choice, right? I changed to Bernie because I want this I'm looking farther down the road. Boyce said that this is my conviction. So who are we to challenge him, in terms of where you voted for? And if we are going to challenge him, why don't we actually call him out legitimately and just say, hey, fuck you? Because that's what they're doing. All these people are just cussing him out, saying, you're stupid. You threw your vote into the garbage. And it's like, well, that's not how to convince him. You're not going to convince this guy. I mean, he was on our show and openly admitted that he should have voted for Hillary. He openly admitted that on the show, I don't know, like 8 months ago, maybe 9 months ago now.
Yeah, he went with what? Gary Johnson?
Yep.
Yeah.
And he openly admitted, hey, this is what he should do. But instead, now he goes, this is a primary. And he went and did this. And come on, cut him some slack. For Christ's sake, there's an ideology, and if you don't understand how politics works, there's a reason he did that. Not just because of the amount of time he spent in that guy. I mean, he didn't just go, well, I spent 2 or 3 months of my life doing this. It's because of his conviction. And in the time that he's allotted to vote in the primary, that's acceptable. So when we talk about the rule of 2, which is, you can't see my fingers, but I'm talking like Bernie because Bernie talks with his hands, I guess. It's weird. Like, I saw myself in Bernie for a second there. But, when we talk about the rule of 2 and we talk about there can only be 2, that's what it felt like tonight, because essentially the progressives are now pushing towards Bernie, and the centrists, or basically the majority of the Democrats, are pushing towards Biden. And that was the message I got out of the debate tonight, was that they both want similar things. They have different ideas on how to get it done. The difference is that they're both going to sit around and bash each other, and they're going to bash Trump, because both of them openly bash Trump throughout the whole thing. And it's like, come on, like, we have better things to talk about. We all know Trump's a fuck up. If you're voting blue, we don't need to have the conversation about whether Trump sucks. We don't need to have this. We all know this. It's very simple.
It's a common piece of knowledge right there.
Yes, exactly. Like, there's no reason to discuss this any longer. Like, oh, great, I get it. Trump sucks. He's not handling this very well. But to harp on it, you're just wasting your breath. And the idea here is that neither one of them actually came out on stage and took any sort of big authoritative change. All Bernie did is said, I'm going to tell you the future will fix the past and we'll fix the present. And Biden's like, we can't wait that long. Why are you looking in the future, old man?
And I can understand that sentiment and kind of what I'm looking for. So I get what you're saying is that Bernie's looking to the future. He's not really very good at being specific to the present. And Joe Biden was vice president for 8 years. So he knows what it's like with the onslaught, the daily onslaught. The number of times he said the Situation Room, if you were playing a drinking game, you would be dead right now. But seriously, but what he did really effectively was say, I was in the Situation Room. I was always dealing with that current crisis, because there's always a crisis. And that's actually kind of an Achilles heel towards all of his arguments. Is like, listen, we're going to take care of the crisis now, and we'll work on the big thing later. But Biden and Obama both tried to do that, and they could never get away from the crisis, because if you've ever worked in a large company or anything like that, like it's always on fire. There's always something that's a crisis for the moment, and they're like, oh, we got this big long scale, and it's hard to actually spend time to do those kinds of things. The same kind of situation in politics. There's always, especially in the 24-hour media cycle, there's always a crisis. There's always something that you have to be devoting time and essential manpower to, that it's really hard to go shoot for the moon. That's one of the reasons why moderate and centrist politics have never really moved very far. It's because every day there's a new thing that keeps you from getting towards that big one. And so I like the idea that Sanders really pushes hard for that big stuff, if he can find a way to delegate and create a really strong administration that can handle some of the smaller and more important stuff that needs to be dealt with on a daily basis when it comes to diplomatic communications, creating lateral trade policies, and all those kinds of things that we used to have diplomats for before Trump fired everyone but Fox News correspondents. And
InfoWars.
Yeah, well, no, he's in jail now from the DUI. But the whole thing is like they both have huge holes, and they are unwilling or unable to fully address those issues. And that is something that I do agree with Tanner on. I do think that this is a big deal. If you ask me where I'm going to go, I want the guy shooting for the moon, because Biden will never move the party as far left as he says he will. He will never be able to do that, because he is the embodiment of a compromise. Everything he's ever done has been like that. And in fact, a lot of the things that he's done, Bernie actually called him out on it. Says like that. I think that it was. I'm paraphrasing here. He says that I'm willing to make the decision that's unpopular at the time, to do the right thing when it's not popular. And Biden always did what I just considered the right thing when it became popular. And so he was calling him out on the minimum wage to $15 an hour. Said, I'm glad you're here now. I was there 4 years ago, but I'm glad you're here now, because that's what it takes to get elected right now, essentially. And like those are real things. So like whether or not you think the incrementalism is a viable option, I personally think that incrementalism is so slow in this country that it starts to go right, which is what we've seen.
Well,
I think And so that's kind of where I am on that. So like, anyways, but in the end, I do see your point, Chris. I do see that they both have huge holes and they need to fix those problems. If they could possibly work together, it might be interesting.
But and hear me out. I get you, because of the fact that you're like, hey, they're this, but they're that, right? I get that, 100%. But one of the big things that I have to say here is, shit. Now I lost my thought. God damn.
Damn it!
I had this huge point.
One job.
One job, exactly. And now I feel like I just lost the Sith title. There you go. I'm no longer Palpatine anymore.
Now your apprentice shall strike you down.
Oh. But when we talk about them and we talk about them doing this or doing that, and should we look to the future? Should we look to the past? And you're like, well, they always are looking at the minute, and they got to do things incremental. And I would actually challenge you a little bit. And I'm not telling you because capitalism moves pretty fast. Capitalism moves at the pace that the people want to move. Right? That's how fast it moves.
It moves at the pace that the people with power move.
Exactly.
Yeah,
but it also moves at the pace of the other people that move, right?
Yeah.
It does.
I mean, it definitely.
Look.
I would say it's restrictive.
I disagree because if people are dumping money into there, if people dump money into the system, let's pick the Lions, right?
Mm-hmm.
People are dumping money into the Lions, even though they haven't won. Maybe 60% of their games in how many years? I'm sorry, they haven't. People continue to dump money into it because that's what they believe and that's what they want, right? Not because they have to. We don't have to dump money into that football team. You could dump money into any football team. You could dump money into any hockey team, right?
Mm-hmm.
The Red Wings are right next door. The Tigers are right next door. You could dump money into those organizations instead. So once that money comes flowing in, that's when the powers in the capitalist environment take advantage of it and can move very fast. In capitalism, things can move very fast if they want to. But as a rule of business, if we're going to talk actual business management, as a rule of business management, Vice in the chat. That's hilarious. But as a rule of business management here, you don't move at 200 miles an hour. You slow the train down. You move at incremental steps. You do that because if you make that big of a change, you can upset so many different parts of the organization because it's so large. When you're like a 50-person company or there's a 2-person company, you owned a 2-person company. You make a change in your business, who does it affect? You, your family, your father's family, and your father. That's it. No questions asked. You guys dissolve the business, you take another job. It affects just that core set of people.
Mm-hmm.
Now, it does affect your customers a little bit, but I don't know, would you have 50 customers? So it affects 50 customers. The difference is if you want change, you don't have to move at that pace. If we allow the government that controls 350 million people to move at the pace of capitalism, come on, man. What the hell's going to happen? We're going to have $1,000 loaves of bread. That's how that's going to happen. We're going to have failure. And I don't agree with the statement that, Biden and the administration only looks at the present. They're not doing it specifically because of the fact that they don't want to move fast, that they don't want change. They're doing it because they don't know how to make the long-term change, which is why you and I have advocated for Bernie a long time ago, right? We've advocated for Bernie. Bernie wants to move at 200 miles an hour, 100%. Like he's like, I'm gone. Let me run with this. He can't focus on the present, which is why he's failing right now, is because he has no ability to actually ascertain the current situation, where we're at, how we're going to do things, and how we can move forward. That's where Elizabeth Warren or Andrew Yang or even Tulsi Gabbard had a better concept of what I can do. Biden, and I agree, Biden is just like this little puppet for the administration. And so Biden wants to move at a snail pace. Bernie wants to move at like a, what do they call those airplanes that fly super fast?
Concorde, supersonic.
There you go. Supersonic plane. You need somebody a little bit in between. Bernie showed tonight that he has no interest in between. He has no ability to see the present, and he just wants to walk away from this. And it's like, that's what's disgusting about this. Bernie, and the arguments are fair. Bernie has not been able to bring a position to the table that can get passed through Congress very often. That's a fact. Biden, on the opposite side, and this is the fact too, Biden has compromised so many things it's not even funny. Are we better off with Bernie? Probably. Is he going to run too fast? Probably. And that's the problem here, though. And this is where I get, a little passionate, and I say, hold on, for fuck's sake, because you're going to sit here and tell me that, Biden and Obama had no plans for the future. They sure as hell did.
Oh no, they did.
Their plans just weren't in your progressive state of mind. They're not in my progressive state of mind. And Biden sure as hell right now is doing nothing but trying to secure votes for capitalism. Period. He's a centrist. And that's the problem. Like, I'm going to disagree with you 100% and say no way in hell in the fact that, Biden and them aren't looking at the future. They are. It's just not the future you and I believe in. And Bernie and I disagree. After this debate tonight, I'm very disheartened by Bernie. And I'm sad he's the best progressive candidate because of what he said. I feel, and again, I feel like Boyce almost all of a sudden, it's like, I'd almost rather have Andrew Yang. He at least understands how to interact with the current situation and what we need right the fuck now, not
right.
10 years from now.
And those are valid points. I think you're jumping a little hard on the standards. So right out of the gate, you're talking about upsetting the system, breaking a few things, $1,000 loaves of bread. Like, I love that. This conservatives love to say that Bernie Sanders loaves of bread will be $1,000. I personally think that destroying things like Citizens United and getting money completely and totally out of politics is a huge revolution in American politics, and that will significantly upset all kinds of stuff. And then if you really push it really hard, and you throw something like Medicare for all, which is supported by the people in this country, you're going to slam the insurance companies and all the jobs and things that are involved in that. There's a ton of stuff and upheaval, but politics isn't supposed to be nice and clean. It's not supposed to be great. And revolution, it doesn't have to be a bloody revolution a la Thomas Jefferson. It doesn't have to be blood at the foot of Tree of Liberty, but it can be an angry, ugly thing. Sometimes a good jump. If you thought about where the United States was when the New Deal was created, was that a incremental step, or was that we're trying to prevent anything like the Great Depression from ever happening again, and we created a huge safety net, which immediately, directly became the sole source of intention for destruction for all the powers that be when it comes to people and money. So like we have two examples right there of big changes and revolutionary things. But when we look at like European standards for progressives and leftists and their ideas of revolution, Bernie Sanders is considered not very progressive. He's not considered that revolutionary. I mean, he wants to push hard for what we call American politics, but in the end, I do think that there's going to be some eggs broken. I think that's going to happen, but I don't think that if you basically push only like if you think if Sanders is pushing too hard for something like when he wants to create no tuition for colleges, public tuitions or something like that, or whatever, like he doesn't think that would get passed. I think that could probably get passed. It might not be in the first 2 years, maybe at the end of 4 years for public tuition, because the reason I say that is because Joe Biden was actually talking about it tonight. Joe Biden, compromise king himself, was talking about it tonight. Those kinds of things are a really big deal when he's moving the centrist, at least to a campaign on those things. So, like, I get it that he's pushing really hard. And when it comes to the nuts and bolts and stuff like that, I think that people are gonna dance a little too hard down that the slippery slope that he just simply won't be able to get anything done because he's gonna push too hard. If you look at the basics for negotiations and everything, like, you have to start at the far point and find your way back. Like, if you start with nothing but the idea is like, we're definitely never going to get to this point that we're looking for, we'll just start in the middle and try to find our way in. I don't think that's a safe place to be, and I think that we need to make up the ground that we've lost in the past. So, like,
I agree with you to some extent, Hannah. Like,
yeah, I remember you saying that you were an anarcho.
I'm an anarchist. But Bernie's not showing anarchist tendencies. Well, that's not what he's doing.
He says he wants to break it, and it's making you uncomfortable.
No, it's not. Absolutely, that's not what's making me uncomfortable. What's making me uncomfortable is the fact that Bernie, not only, instead of Bernie taking the high ground and Bernie saying, hey, look, my plans are better. And let me lay this out to you. My plans are better because of the fact that I'm going to sit here and I'm going to show you that this is what it's going to do. This is what it's going to do. this is what it does. Instead, he's going, hey, go check out where Biden didn't vote for this. Come on.
Yeah.
Fuck you, Bernie. Shut the fuck up. Like, I get it. You know, it was a great burn. It's great for TV, but it's stupid. You took the wrong advice, man. Like,
who's he trying to win here? Like, he doesn't need to try to win the Bernie Bros. He needs to try to win the moderates
and he's not going to win people by doing that.
Well, I think he's going to win because what do we have? We have a short term. We have the shortest attention span American people YouTube 4-second, 10-second, 15-second clips. I mean, how often do people actually finish an entire video?
Hold on. I'm going to stop you. I'm going to stop you a second. I'm going to stop because Biden's right though. Look, Biden all of a sudden came back and said, "Hey, look, you're taking me out of context." Fuck you, Bernie. He took him out of context. Go look at Biden called him out. He said,
I know.
And then Bernie goes, yeah, you know what? PolitiFact isn't always right. And look, I'm telling you right now, Bernie took Biden out of context to some extent. Yes, the difference is Biden did not vote to get rid of Social Security. That's not what he did. He didn't vote to reduce it. Biden voted for a package or wanted to vote for a package, advocated for a package of stuff that would compromise Social Security. There's a difference. He was compromising. He did not actively go after Social Security. And that's what Bernie made it out to be. Fuck you, Bernie. That's what I say, because that's some bullshit right there. And that's, you know, again, this is where Elizabeth Warren came in and was such a better orator at this. She didn't do these weird little things. She didn't have to do this dance other than the whole Native American thing. You know, she didn't have to do that. And I'm telling you, that's my problem with what happened tonight. This is what church, this is a new recent thing. I'm more progressive than most people. I am an anarchist. I believe in burning the system down. But Bernie's not trying to just burn the system down. He's like sitting here and it's like he has a match and he just can't figure out how to light it, trying to burn the system down. Come on, man. The Joker did better than him. Palpatine did better than him. Every one of these other people that wanted to burn the system down has done better than he has. And then my problem with how he attacked tonight was the fact that he's sitting here giving this garbage discussion, Hanna, about Biden being against Social Security. And it's like, hey, great. Why don't you tell us where the money's going to come from? Why don't you tell what Biden challenged you and you didn't come back and tell us where that money's going to come from? We all know where it's going to come from, but why can't you say that on national fucking TV, on CNN? My money's going to come from stripping the rich of their taxes, from defunding some of the war elements, from pulling troops from overseas, from turning around and taxing the rich. And let me explain how your taxes won't go up. He missed a vital odd. They're not going to go up. They go They go up, but your medical insurance goes down.
Yeah.
So
your overall costs go down,
Semantics.
but they will go up. And
exactly.
If you say taxes will go up on a debate stage in this country,
he had the opportunity to explain it in the reality that it is. I believe in owning your mistakes. I have to admit on a daily basis when I fuck up. I'd admit tonight. I'd admit yesterday. I'd admit the day before. I played in a Star Wars X-Wing tournament yesterday where I won 1 out of 3 games, right? I can't say it's a dice. I had to actually go through and explain, well, I made this, and this mistake. Okay? Bernie could literally have said, I'm going to raise your taxes, but let me explain to you where the money is going to come from. And that your taxes may go up, but your medical insurance goes down. So if you pay less money per month in medical bills and you have to pay a tiny bit more in taxes, who cares? And you know what? If the public's too stupid to figure that out, then again, let them be ruled by the Sith. I don't know what to tell you.
That's part of the problem. It's just like whether or not we can trust the education and level and the people in this country. You
don't get a choice because that's how democracy works now. You want anarchy?
That.
Let's all go get guns, storm the government, and take down this government right now. I'm all for that. I don't have enough money invested in any of this shit. My 401ks are probably gone anyway because of the coronavirus. Yeah. So what do I care? I got guns. We got guns. Everybody's got guns. Let's go take this down. We got nothing better to do right now anyway, right? Other than get sick. So let's go storm the government. Let's take Trump out of office. Let's reinstate a progressive candidate in what we want for democracy. But that's not what Bernie's trying to do to some extent. He's doing it, but he's not, in my opinion, he failed tonight. And I'm not going to not vote for Bernie. I'm going to still vote for Bernie. Already did. I hope, and I know you will too. But how else are we going to burn the government down? We need better candidates than this. That's all I'm saying. And I think we owe Buddy an opportunity to speak. He's been like licking his microphone in the case. He's like,
I was just adjusting my pop filter. I think I finally got it at a good angle. I don't really have a whole lot to add because like you guys said, I didn't watch the debate, so I didn't really know. But for Bernie to kind of stoop to that type of populist tactics, where it's just throw out some misinformation to misdirect to make his own point by kind of misconstruing the truth, that is really disappointing, especially to be coming from somebody like him who has really been a staunch critic of the lack of transparency and the lack of honesty that's come out of the White House ever since the Oompa Loompa took charge. And for him to just do that it's very disheartening to see that happen. I just hope it's not a sign of a greater shift in his tactics to, trying to run smear campaigns, as opposed to, this is what we need to do. These are the changes that need to be made. These are the policies, because that's how I've always seen him. Right. So I'm hoping that he kind of sticks to those guns, because to be honest, I don't think Biden could do as much change. And I mean, I know even if Bernie were to get in, everything Trump has done to date would not be reversed. I mean, the Republicans still have how much control of everything, right? And
they have the Senate, and they basically are rocking that. The House is democratically controlled, and then so what they have is they have the presidency and the Senate, so 2/3 majority. And if that switched to Democratic president, then the Democrats would have 2/3 majority, and the Senate would be the odd one out. So they would still have a big roadblock, but it wouldn't be as strong.
Right. So obviously there wouldn't be not necessarily be rampant change, but it would be nice to see something productive instead of constantly being lied to and condescended. And then it would really take a lot of the steam out of the shitty little edgelords who are like, oh my god, Trump, he's so different, he's not a typical politician. And it's like, well, you don't want a business person running a country because they're going to run it like a business. And Trump doesn't have a good record with running businesses. He's bankrupted how many businesses? You really want that guy to be in charge? Come on. Give me a break.
Well, one of the things that I think part of the issue is what Sanders was trying to put out in that video when he was constantly mentioning the Biden, where he was considering as a part of a package something that would compromise and potentially make it open, so that it would essentially remove the barriers that make cutting entitlements even possible at all. Those are just off the table when it comes to the United States budget. And so what Sanders is basically saying is that through the history, all the things, if you look at the major decisions, the major things that he's been involved with since he has been in politics, he has almost exclusively been on the right side of the major decisions throughout history, that as long as he's been in politics. Whenever you look at the big things, what was the right decision 5 years afterwards, the hindsight, and that's what he was trying to do. This was a case of identity politics that Tanner definitely didn't like. Is Bernie Sanders is basically saying, this is my purity test, taking any kind of stance and strategy or not that would potentially destabilize or threaten our entitlements program is not on the table. It is just not on the table. And that's kind of what Sanders is trying to point out, as far as my understanding of it is. He's trying to say that this wouldn't even be something I would consider. And Biden was saying, for strategy, knowing that this wouldn't come in, knowing that I wasn't going to be endangering that stuff, I would willing to play that game. And so those are kind of some of the decisions. And some of the things, the reason why Bernie has not passed as many things as he has, but also one of the reasons why Biden has been seen as someone who's kind of down in the middle or whatever, but also
hence why
one of the
Bernie's
reasons why
the apprentice.
Bernie doesn't get as many things
Biden's
passed.
the Sith Lord.
Yeah. And so Bernie doesn't get as many things passed. But another example of that is that even when it's something, when Bernie works with someone like John McCain to fund things like the Veterans Health Care Act that they were working on, even that, a not wild or crazy social program to help people in the military, gets shut down by the centrists, and people say it's too expensive, and then they approve a $700+ billion budget. Like, all I'm saying is that when we look at like the interruptions and the chaos that everybody thinks some of these things may throw our way. I mean, the redirecting some of the economic stimulus that we have for essentially low interest or no interest loans that are going out to try to stabilize the economy and dropping the interest rate down to zero this early into what could potentially be a recession. We have essentially neutered our entire Fed's capability to control or at least stimulate our economy in a downturn. Like, these are all major decisions that Bernie has basically been on the right side of history whenever it comes to who are we bailing out. And this is a great example of watching it in real time, what's happening. And you know, sometimes you need to let the banks crush and the banks fall. Sometimes you need to let the big corporations just melt down and those jobs will be lost. But innovation comes with a price, and I personally think that price would be something that the United States would be willing to pay if we all had guaranteed health care and kind of an umbrella that was backed at least to where it was on the New Deal, and then maybe going further to a Green New Deal or a New Deal or whatever lingo you want to use on that. Like the nuts and bolts are really hard to iron out, and whether or not Bernie could ever craft something that they would pass in the Senate. And I know they would pass it in the House because the House is usually a bit wilder. Because looking at Obama's history, and when he had a 2-year supermajority, Democrats were in charge of all 3 branches. Not a whole lot got done right out of the gate. A lot of executive decisions were made, and a lot of arguments were made on that. Like, you know, it's not going to be an easy game at all. It's not an easy game at all, and it's not supposed to be pretty. If you look at the British political system. Watch them call each other. Watch them call each other out to their face in bar words, in bar language. Like
British bar language, but bar language.
Yeah, it's good stuff. And so, like, I'm okay. I may not be okay going full anarchist as far as like a revolution in the streets, but I definitely would like to see our politicians act like they really believe. Because think about it, if you could get someone like Ted Cruz to say what he really thinks.
If we're talking about Ted Cruz, it would probably be they need a dehumidifier in here. I'm soggy.
Yeah. Well, is he like that one guy in the X-Men movie that turned into like a lizard and then turned into water?
Oh, Darwin? No. He's just like a blobfish.
Yeah, he turned into
blobfish. I'm talking Ted Cruz. But I know who you're talking about. That's Darwin. No, he would just adapt. His body would adapt to survive whatever. But no, Ted Cruz he looks like a soggy mattress that gained sentience.
Oh man, you sound like Douglas Adams from the planet that had where they grow mattresses.
What?
From the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. Oh. You definitely need to read the complete guide. You would thoroughly enjoy it. Yes, I highly recommend it. Yes, apparently.
I do too. There, we can agree on that. You know, and
agreement. Wait,
I think the big thing here is, and I'll be honest, I'm still not going to go vote for Biden over Bernie. Period. Like, it's not going to happen. Biden, 100 million times worse. Not worth my time. He's definitely not the candidate that should be opposing Bernie right now. Minimum, we should have Elizabeth versus Bernie on that stage.
I actually would really love that, and that could. Yeah. I really think that could change. Like, if you had Bernie's performance, I know, but if we had Bernie's performance today versus Elizabeth Warren, that might change my mind. That might change my mind. And I honestly think it would. And the reason being, one, she's younger and just got a lot more,
lot more chutzpah.
But she is the practicality and numbers and specifics. She's always was the best. She was the one person constantly putting out complete and whole policies. I mean, there was nobody that was doing that completely.
Yeah, and I think the big thing here is, and this is the last soapbox I stand on for this topic, and then we can walk away, or you can say your bidding, and then I'll move on. And I took some notes for the questions that they asked. They talk about the quarantine, right? And, Biden shit all over Medicaid or Medicare for all, right? I mean, he shit all over it. He basically said, look, it didn't fix it. Italy, look where they are. And Sanders said, hey, we should have had, we are unprepared because of our privatized systems. We're not united as a people. We still can't always get a doctor. I get that. I actually agree with that. The problem is like, he spent 10 minutes pointing that out, or 3 minutes. Okay, that's exaggeration. He spent 3 minutes pointing that out, and then he didn't get to make any other point on that topic. He wasted so much time articulating that specific point that it was a waste. He's right. We have an unprepared private system. What are we going to do now? And this is the problem. This is right here. And this is the crux of this whole conversation. They asked Biden, why should America support or not support a revolution like Bernie Sanders is saying? And Biden says, we have problems right now. And the senator, he actually called him Bernie, and then he changed it to the senator because obviously somebody told him he can't call him Bernie or something.
He did like a minute later. He did the same. Yeah. He said I'm Bernie again, but either way.
Yeah. And then he says the senator has told us that what is going to happen, what is going to happen and how to pay for it. He hasn't told us this, which he has actually. They just didn't want to discuss it, and Bernie was too dumb to bring it back up.
I agree.
Biden says pass the Biden plan and reinstate the ACA. I can get this mediocre medical changes passed right now, not later, right now. They need hope now, not 4 years later. And the problem is he's capitalizing on this crisis. That, even though I 100% disagree with him on everything he said, that's going to resonate with the majority of Americans because everybody's in panic and flight mode. That's it. There's no toilet paper on the shelf. There's no hand sanitizer. I literally had to fly home last week. It was awful. I went to 5 to 10 gas stations before I went to the airport. I left an hour early before I normally would to hit gas stations, grocery stores up to try and find hand sanitizer or wipes just to wipe the plane down with when I got it in. Nothing, because people are panic mode right now. It was awful. I literally sat there with my arms like over myself, like not touching anything, just literally just sat there. They offered, hey, you want some water? No, I got a water. Nope, leave me alone. Well, I'd take a whiskey, but leave it closed. And
why is it now? All I can think is that it's like some creepy guy in a trench coat. He like walks up and like, hey, man. And you're like, oh god, I don't want. Oh, you just have water, and that's your penis. Okay, cool.
Exactly, that was me. Except for I was not in a trench coat. I was in a Dungeons and Dragons t-shirt and jeans. So whatever, you take it as you will. But Sanders came back and said the power structure is not correct right now. And this is what has to change. This is why we need revolution. And he's right. The problem is that people can't look at revolution unless you get past the base necessities. And we're in crisis mode because people's base necessities are not being met. So Biden, in fairness, Biden became the more intelligent person at that portion of the debate because he's like, hey, look, let me get in office and I'll take care of what's needed. The problem is by the time he gets in office, hopefully coronavirus is gone and we don't need what he's offering. And he knows that. He's not dumb. Bernie doubled down and said, I'm the change you need in the future. And what's that Batman quote? What's the Batman quote? Where
you either live long enough to see yourself, you either die a hero or live long enough to see yourself become the villain.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. Yes! And that's what's happened right here, right now. That's what's happening. And I agree. It's disgusting, man. Don't get me wrong. Biden is an awful person. If I have to vote for him, it will be with gloves on. I will literally be wearing gloves at the precinct to vote for Biden. That's how much I can't stand that guy. But at the exact same time, in this debate, Bernie failed. And I want to call out failure where it's due. And while I'm not anti-Bernie, and I'm not going to not say,
no, it's possible to critique someone and not be against them and not think that everyone who supports them is an asshole. Like, this is something that I've actually talked about on the internet. It's like, I don't debate online anymore. I don't do it. I just don't do it. I will, if you meet me in person and we meet around people, I will talk to you and we will talk about this thing or whatever, and we'll have the conversation. But like in the end, it's never fully oppositional. This is not like a grudge match where it's the loser gets shot in the parking lot afterwards. Like that's what people treat the internet like, and it's just I just can't I can't do that anymore. Like I can't have those conversations. But if you were willing to have a conversation and talk about the little nitpicking, something like that, like we're both basically on the same page. It's how we get little bits and pieces and some of the things that we think are good or bad or ugly when it comes to this process. Those are natural differing opinion points. This is a natural conversation. This is something that's good to have. I mean, and I some of the things that you've mentioned that when it comes to Sanders' performance tonight stand out more when you call them out more to me, because hearing them I was like, kind of like, come on, move on, let's get to the point. Why are we doing this? Like I actually said that out loud while I was doing the dishes today, and so like it's just kind of how it is. And so like but I'm used to that because Sanders is a stump speech deliverer. He's not usually, his strength is not usually in his debate prowess. When it comes to ad hoc, just every once in a while I'll have a thing where it's like, I wrote the damn bill or whatever. Every once in a while I'll have something where it's like, a pop of genius in the middle of a normal debate or whatever. But like in the end, what he's good at is basically giving us a populist message, the people that support him and really want to break down the system. And so like the only thing I think is that in the end, I don't think that breaking down some of the people with powers channels and lines that they had for society is going to cause the kind of chaos that we really think it is, because so many people in this country, regardless of this coronavirus panic where everybody's buying toilet paper for some unknown reason, they
the shitpocalypse.
I don't understand it. Either way, there are tons of people every day without a virus who cannot make ends meet and cannot figure these things out. Take away the toilet paper, not too much changes in all reality. And so like if you bust a bunch of stuff together, the only thing that changes is maybe the unemployment rate goes up a little bit, because some of those major industries are going to be just totally shook up. I don't have my 2020 hindsight on this one to know exactly where we go on that.
I disagree with that. There's a lot that's going to shake up. If things close down for a month and we don't get guaranteed employment or resolution, people are getting laid off. I went to restaurants last week where people were like, we don't know what we're going to do.
I was talking about Sanders changes, not this COVID stuff. Like the COVID stuff, this is the beginning of a recession. Like this is a tipping point. This is a Gladwellian tipping point. This is something that you cannot see, and history will see this as a change when it comes to, obviously a flip to a bear market from an 11, 12-year bull market. Like without question, this is a tipping point. And what it's going to do is move out a whole bunch of things and indices in a specific direction, whether or not they get bailed out. And that will change the tune. But I honestly think that there are a bunch of pieces moving around right now that history will look at, just like the Great Recession that happened about 12 years ago.
And buddy, what did you say earlier? The Batman quote. Say it again for everybody.
You either die a hero or live long enough to see yourself become the villain.
Yeah. And it's almost like that's where Bernie's at. He's almost become the villain now. And yes, it's somewhat the Democratic Party, pushing him that way, but he's he's not smart enough to change his message to fix that. And I get it. He's 78 years old. I mean, maybe he's spoken the same message since he's been in his 40s, 30s. Mm-hmm. I mean, in fairness, he consistent. He's right. He's consistent.
Yeah. But in that time, he should have been able to develop very specific solutions to the problem. And that's one of the things that I've always had an issue with. It's like, what are so I've gone through his website, and there is a lot of really good detail in there, but everyone would always love to see Bernie put out an Elizabeth Warren level detailed plan for a lot of these things. Yeah. I think what he does is he double bookkeeps a lot of stuff. So like when we talk about taxing the rich, that's really great. You can tax when it comes to capital gains and those kinds of things, but those are limited things. When we talked about the tax plan that Trump recently changed, he was double bookkeeping when it comes to a lot of where that money is going to come from. They essentially double counted, and so that they said the economy will be just fine because we have $2 billion to work with, and then they counted that $2 billion again later. Sanders loves to say that we're going to tax the rich and we're going to increase your taxes and pay for everything. You need to be a little more specific, because if you double book that stuff, next thing you know, you're creating a deficit at a Trumpian order, because we're at 700 or 1.99 billion. or no, what is it? $1,999,000,000,000 for the total cost for the tax overhaul at this point.
Hooray!
Yeah. Oh, anyway, I think we've discussed the debate enough. I'm thoroughly done.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No,
I don't blame you.
I feel we should move on to some sports ball. I think Buddy had some sports ball discussion he wanted to bring up. I don't know. Maybe.
Well,
puck,
That's-
rubber.
yeah, something about like a hard little rubber disc. I don't know. I think it's like an overcooked pizza or something that they hit around with a stick. I don't really know the sports balls.
The worst donut ever.
Oh, yeah, it's when they haven't even
Takes the
they can't
teeth
even punch
out.
the hole out of.
Yeah.
It does take your teeth out, and worse, it could do damage to other bones. All right, so as some of you may have heard, there's been a little bit of a change in sports ball schedules going on here. So the NHL has canceled all games indefinitely, just until they're not as concerned. We've got more of a handle on this whole virus pandemic thing.
Yeah.
So basically, what has happened is obviously when games are canceled, it's not just the players, not just the fans that are impacted, but there's a large amount of support staff that are involved that rely on these games to work, even though they make about per hour what I think a beer costs at the average stadium now, at least. Well, maybe here that are minimum
I
wage
don't
is a little
know,
higher.
man. I've seen that $13 beer and think, man, that wouldn't be a bad paycheck.
That's sad. So following this, what happened was a few teams kind of announced how they would address that problem. I'm going to focus on the NHL because I don't really know the basketball thing. That sport eludes me.
The basic conversation through all this is pretty similar to all sports. There's a huge support staff, and those people won't be working.
Yeah, that's the gist of this, if you will. So initially upon this, on Thursday the 12th, there were some announcements made, and I'm going to focus a little bit on the Flames. I'm going to be a lot harder on them because that's my city. They are maybe where I'm not 100% sure right now, my team. But essentially on the 12th, the owner, what the hell was his name? This is how unhappy with him I am. Murray Edwards. He was on what's called the naughty list. So this is one of the links here. It's the RussianMachineNeverBreaks.com. They've been keeping track of all the NHL teams and their responses and their approaches to how teams are going to be helped. They've got a naughty, a medium, and a nice list. The naughty list are people who are like, no, we're not going to do anything. The medium list is people who have said, we're going to do something, we just don't know what. And the nice list is people or the teams who have gone out of their way to, at least say that we're going to make sure that these people are paid. So prior to the update from the Flames that was released this afternoon, 4 of the 7 Canadian hockey teams, and don't ask me to name which ones because I can't remember, I just counted them. 4 of the Canadian hockey teams were on the naughty list, meaning that they had said they weren't going to do a damn thing. However, as of right now, as of me recording this, 9:30 p.m. Mountain Standard Time on Sunday, only 2 are still on the naughty list. Those would be Ottawa and Winnipeg, and we have more on Winnipeg later. Excuse me. So we have Toronto and Vancouver, who are on the medium list. They're working on a plan with the Vancouver Canucks owner, Francesco Aquilini. I don't know how to say that. Sorry. Saying that their plan would be based more on individual need, which essentially a lot of these jobs are not necessarily people's primary source of income, because some people do this as a second job so they can make more money. Not that it makes this any better. The Calgary Flames, Edmonton Oilers, and Montreal Canadiens have all announced plans to assist employees impacted by the current cancellation. But a fun fact here, approximately 25 of the 32 teams are owned by billionaires. Keep that in mind. Billionaires. And of the 7 teams still on the naughty list, 5 of those people are on the list of billionaires. So let's just let that one sit out there for a second, that billionaires aren't looking down at the people who they rely on to make their money.
It's not trickling down. Is that what you're saying?
That's what I'm saying.
It's not trickling.
It's almost like trickle down economics just doesn't work. So as I said, on the 12th, Flames owner Murray Edwards announced that they would not be paying employees. However, that changed today miraculously, claiming that additional information had been gathered, prompting them to their adoption of
additional information. Also, we looked at Twitter and saw that we were getting destroyed.
It gets there. Prompting them to adopt an income bridge support program for qualifying employees, whatever that last qualifier means. But this was
breathing?
Are you breathing? Or yeah? Do you need food? Are you going to die? Do you need toilet paper?
None of that.
Do you not have thousands of dollars worth of wet wipes that you are trying to sell at a disgusting markup?
Hey, so, I got rolls of toilet paper, $20 a piece. Just saying.
My wife came home.
That's a fifth of whiskey for me.
My wife came home with a fresh pack of Charmin from the grocery store, and I was like, I should put that on a chain and take some snapshots.
Just put it. Just be like,
just totally Flavor Flav that thing. It's like just skip the clock and go straight to the Charmin.
But seriously though, think about it, Hannah. Or I'm going to derail the conversation for a second because that's
never happens.
Never happens. I didn't last time. We're pretty specific about why Bernie fucked up last time. But, think about it this way: if you could sell a case of toilet paper for a bottle of whiskey, would you do that? I mean, like, could you wipe your own ass with leaves? I mean, like, I'll keep some for the people that want it in my house, but for me personally, if I were like, I'm gonna buy a thing of toilet paper, and somebody's like, here's the capitalist in me. Well, I'll give you a bottle of whiskey or a half gallon of whiskey for that case of toilet paper. Merry Christmas. Did I double my profit? Yep. Okay, here you go. I'll go outside. I'll use leaves.
Wait, what kind of whiskey and what kind of toilet paper?
Okay, first off, just
shitty
completely and totally clear the freaking air. Just wash your hands.
Wash your damn hands.
You don't need toilet paper. You don't need any kind of media. You
just get in the shower, right?
And clean your starfish.
Wash it, damn.
Water is still flowing. Take a shower. Or, I mean, if you really want to go, just get yourself a bowl and just wash yourself and then wash your hands afterwards. Like, I don't understand why people are
what I'm trying to say.
Bad. Like, if I didn't have toilet paper for the month, I would not die.
What I'm trying to say here is that if you've got one of those removable shower heads, you've got a built-in bidet. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
You don't really need the toilet paper.
And you
at least guys don't. Anyways.
Well, you could also see if milking the prostate is a real thing.
Oh my God! Okay.
Be careful. Be careful because that's
one
hell of a way to douche. Like that's just.
Oh.
Like, what's that? I think the Ron White was the guy that talked about the bidet. Yeah, just like. This is not a bad thing. I don't know what you guys are talking about.
70 million men can't be wrong. And then he's talking about how he goes in and his wife is like, "Is that cake?" He's like, "No." Yeah. Singing his songs. Yeah, just be careful because that's an enema that nobody wants to deal with.
There you go. See, look, I derailed the show for you.
I like it. It's nice. It's nice to not be the one derailing things for once.
I'm just saying, like, I get it. Like, not everybody has to take my viewpoint, and like, I'm not shaming anybody that wants their toilet paper over alcohol. I'm just saying, and maybe this is the alcohol talking, or maybe it makes me sound like an alcoholic.
You had to hiccup in the middle of that sentence too, right?
Damn it, Rick.
My dog, by the way, derail central. My dog just opened the door to my bedroom. He like literally just jumped up and pushed the door open with his paw.
Oh shit!
You have one of the you have like the lever or not the turnies.
It's a churny thing. He uses his paws like this, and if it's not latched all the way,
you got like a collie or something.
60 pounds on it. No, that my border collie is laying on the couch with her tongue out. It's my boxer German Shepherd mix. That's smart enough to figure out how to open the doors.
Damn.
Anyway,
so back onto tracks here. So as I was saying, on the 12th, Flames owner Murray Edwards said that they would not be paying employees. Now Now, this followed their stance that, or what followed with this was their stance that shifts canceled with less than 24 hours notice would be paid out as per provincial regulations obligating them to. But other factors contributing here are the fact that of the support staff, 250 are full-time employees are affected, but they have 1,500 part-time employees. So meaning that part-time employees who had this as their only source of income may not even qualify for employment insurance benefits if they didn't have enough insurable hours to qualify for EI. Now, the shift that came today followed a hashtag Shame the Flames, which trended on Twitter. And there was a large public outcry, basically, which backed them into a corner. They didn't put anything up for, like, I think it was like 2 days. And then finally, they're like, yeah, we're totally going to help. They didn't say anything. All they did was, yeah, we're going to help. But I think that another big contributing factor to this sudden change of heart is the fact that Flames rival Edmonton Oilers immediately announced their support for their support staff, saying that they had a program that they were going to utilize. Now, I think it's in combination because EI only covers 60% of your previous wages here. And I think they said they were going to cover the other 40% or something like that. I haven't looked too deep into that. There's been a lot going on. But let's go back to Winnipeg, because I promised you there would be a little bit more on the Winnipeg being on the naughty list here. And this is
why are they on the naughty list?
This is because
whenever I hear Winnipeg, I always think of Marty Morningweg from the Detroit Lions. It's like Marty Morningweg got pissed off, got on his bicycle, and rode off to Winnipeg. Like, just. Oh. So Marty Morningweg, just an absolute trash bag of capabilities directly associated with the Detroit Lions, because Tanner has a hat on. So continue with why Winnipeg is essentially failing at everything.
So there are the two owners for Winnipeg, David Thompson and Mark Chipman. Chipman, who himself is not one of the billionaire owners, but Thompson is worth about $38 billion. Chipman came out and said that these people are on part-time agreements. They work when we work. So regrettably, to the extent that we're not putting on shows and games, those people obviously would not have a call to work. So because Tanner's already said it twice, I have absolutely no problem saying, hey, Mark Chipman, fuck you, you inconsiderate fuck. So I hope that guy steps on a rusty nail. I'm just saying. Yeah, so that's pretty much kind of what's going on in the NHL there. I was about to go into my next story. Sorry, guys. So the NHL overall has had a reasonable response to this. I haven't looked, as I said, I haven't looked into the other sports, but I think about half of the teams at least are on the Knights list. They did update it to put the Flames on there, but they did make sure that they qualify it by saying, yeah, on the 19th, they did say, or on the 12th, they did say they weren't going to do anything. So just remember that. So I've kind of tweeted out a lot of smack talk about the Flames on my Buddy the Lumberjack Twitter, Buddy Lumberjack, at Buddy Lumberjack.
Moving up in the world.
Yeah. Oh, I've been doing a lot of smack talking in the last few days because I'm just like, this is absolutely disgusting. Like, everybody who's basically unaffected by this is acting like they don't owe anybody anything, even though, you know, we're the reason that they made money. And that just really, really pissed me off, especially the Chipman thing. Cause I'm like, oh, okay, well, I really hope that everybody remembers what an asshole you are. And I remember that Winnipeg was a big deal because all of a sudden Canada's like, oh, we got another team. And now that they're owned by a total shitlord, may not last. But I do hope that everybody remembers and that fans of hockey question their allegiance to their team when, you know, regular season kicks back in, ticket sales are, they're knocking on people's doors for ticket sales. Remember how your team responded when it comes to supporting them financially. If they were willing to step up and say, hey, we're going to look after the people who, you know, basically make it so you can buy that overpriced heroin beer at the stadium, cool. Good for them. But if they turn their backs on them, maybe we as fans need to do more to to make sure that the league is held accountable.
You can vote with your dollars, essentially, is what we theoretically say you can do, especially in the capitalist market. That's like the most important thing, if people will actually do that. I'm gonna say, looking at what America has done for, I don't know, stuff like Michael Vick and any of those kinds of things, like there's a couple of people who actually get held accountable for what they've done, but in all reality, it probably won't really affect the bottom line of the owners. The machine will continue on, and
absolutely.
Unethical behavior will be overlooked and absorbed into, I love my distraction when it comes to it. It's the same kind of thing when it comes to like politics or whatever. Everybody is so heated and so intense. I mean, whether or not Tanner and I had talked about this in the past, like we like the fact that people are way more involved in a political process for longer. I mean, essentially it's a never ending cycle now, like every 2 years and then moving into the 4 years, like people talk politics continuously and readily, and people that you wouldn't have expected to, like, as much as, but like we don't really see any major changes. We see a lot of populist things. So like we see guys like we see candidates that are running for office start talking about YouTube clips that they really want everybody to look at, those kinds of things. Like we see people trying to just, I don't know, find the market and the people. And so hopefully, I agree with you, buddy. I still have a hard time saying that. Keith, you're Keith. But in the end, like it really does matter. Like if your team is doing something nasty, like vote with your dollars. Like I comfortably and without question can take the $0 I spent last year on sports and move that to another place that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So like that's the other thing. It's like people that don't spend any money on it. It's like we have an issue with something like that, and it's like, well, I don't spend any money on those things. Like I have a couple Detroit coffee cups. It's about I have a hat. But other than that, so like it's like if it really makes a difference and can change that guy's perspective, maybe like cable payments or something like that, that'd be awesome. But I will not hold my breath that this kind of thing will make a change.
No, especially because these guys are never in fear of losing their money.
No, exactly. And that's the sad part about this. I mean, you talk about, Winnipeg and, all these other people that are not going to pay during this time of need, right?
Yeah.
That's disgusting. And it's funny because you asked me earlier, what's your team? Are you a Red Wing team? All right, they're on the good list. They're not on the naughty list.
Yeah.
I agree with you though, because I think about, especially with traveling, I think about all these restaurants I visit, and I think about what do these waitresses do? What do these waiters do? What do any of these people do? Because at some point these restaurants are going to get shut down. Like think about if you work at a buffet.
Oh God,
Illinois and Ohio.
Eating at a buffet. Stop. It's
Illinois and Ohio both shut down all their restaurants.
Thank God.
This weekend.
Thank God. It's like
praise Allah.
Like my wife texts me on Friday and goes, "Hey, do you want this?" And I was like, "I do really want this pita because it's from like an authentic pita place. It tastes amazing. It's Mr. Kozak's is like shout out. There you go. Is like one of the best places to get a Greek pita at. Seriously, hands down." But it's kind of like, are they contaminated? Did they shower before they came to work? Are they washing their hands?
Yeah.
I ate it. So fuck it. If I get sick, at least it tasted good. At least it tasted good. That's all I got to say.
Hashtag
you only live once, brah.
Exactly.
YOLO.
We think about all these people, and then we turn around and we think about, what happens to these people that work at concert venues or at bars or any of these other places.
Yeah.
What happens to them? And if in my opinion, and this is just my opinion, the government needs to step in and say either companies will pay them or we're going to raise your tax rate 100%. Period. Fuck it.
Oh, that wouldn't happen here.
I'm sure it wouldn't. But at some point, again, and this is just me being facetious, buddy, but at some point we have to have that conversation to say, where is capitalism and where is socialism and where is humanism? And if your capitalism overtakes your humanism, fuck you. And my company, and I'll give a real world example. This is a real world example. Thursday night, I came home. I flew home Thursday afternoon. I was home about 7:30. Had to go to the store. Freaking out because there's nothing. Like, I wanted to buy chicken. There's no fucking chicken in this Myers, period. No chicken. There's no the bread that they had there was like the expensive bread. There was no cheap bread there. Like, usually I pay $1.50 for a loaf of bread. There's nothing. It's like $3 to $5 if you want a loaf of bread.
Yeah.
And stuff with all the nuts in it and everything. You're like,
yeah, like so I gotta get something my kids are gonna eat. Like I just need white bread that they can put peanut butter and jelly on. Anybody can eat peanut butter and jelly and live. Period. Anyway, so I'm at the store buying some groceries because everybody's having a meltdown. I'm like, I better go grocery shopping now. And I'm kind of set because I bought a quarter pig or a quarter cow and a half pig. So I have plenty of meat, honestly. I have enough meat for like a month, basically, without having to buy any meat. And I have enough frozen vegetables for a month too, because I'm crazy like that. But anyway, long story short, we go all the way back and we talk about, like why people are doing this and what's happening. And I sit there and I had to text my boss because what happened is Governor Whitmer shut the schools down. Well, my company employs 250 people and over 60% of them work in a warehouse, right? So when you when the warehouse is there, what do you do? Like if you can't be in contact with people, what do you do? Right? What do you do? What do these people do? And when I was in Dallas with our warehouse in Dallas, that was the thing. Like we talked about that. People on the floor were scared. They have mortgage payments. They have babysitting, they got to pay.
Yeah.
They have food they got to buy. What happens if we shut that plant down? Are they going to get paid? And then I had employees go, well, I only got a week of vacation. What if we're shut down for 2 weeks? I'm not going to get paid for a week. Yeah. So the question becomes can we disengage the money for war? Can we stop investing in Wall Street? And can we actually, and this is what pissed me off about the debate tonight, is nobody addressed, we invested, I don't know, what was it, a couple $1 billion in Wall Street?
$1.5 billion or $1.5 trillion.
No, was it trillion?
Yeah, $1.5 trillion.
Okay.
In that's what I had mentioned was low interest, or essentially just like, we're gonna give you this money, you got to pay it back.
Exactly.
Which essentially is what it's been. And no, they did mention it, but they didn't really go into it nearly in depth. I think the economic conversation was really lacking in this. I mean, in the middle of what has been the biggest switch they lost 22% of the
I know.
market.
Trust me.
Yeah, they should have been talking about that in this debate. Like, I guess the coronavirus is a really big deal, but the coronavirus direct effect is as an economic one, which is surprising to me. But in the end, they should have talked more about that, and they did not, which is frustrating. So I really think they definitely would have gone deeper into it if they would have been allowed to. And I know Sanders was just itching at the bit. He did mention it for the most recent. And I think actually Biden did say that also, that he acknowledged that was not the best move, especially Jerome Powell taking everything down essentially to 0%. That's what I said earlier on, we've lost the only tool we have to stimulate the economy by reducing the Fed interest rates. So,
but and that's my point is we're not, no one's addressing this. Like, Trump needs to come out and say, hey, everybody's going to get whatever they make for 40 hours a week. No overtime. I'm okay with that. Just get a straight week of pay. You can stay home, and we're going to figure out how to alleviate, corporations of this. And I don't normally say that.
Even the untaxed UBI of $1,000, what Andrew Yang was talking about, like that would be $250 a week. That alone.
Yeah, but that don't pay my mortgage, man.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't. But that's one of the arguments that we've had in the past, is that something like 50% of the people, I think it was, in the United States could not handle a $400 emergency. Like, there is no savings in a lot of people throughout the country.
And that's my point now.
90% of the country does not have $10,000 in the bank or more.
Yeah. And so that's where, in my opinion, and again, we're going back to the original point, Bernie missed the point. Like, Biden missed the point too. Get it? Yeah, Biden, I don't expect Biden to ever get it. Bernie missed the point. Like, it's like, where was that discussion? Hey, if I were president, this is what I'd be doing right now. for those Americans who can't afford it. Yeah, I need health care. I need to fucking go get tested for the coronavirus. Great. Thanks, buddy. But tell me what?
You're welcome.
What are
Well, they both did say that anything involved with the coronavirus is completely and totally covered. But
come on, man, but that's bullshit.
Well, I know
I
know it is.
know that.
I know that. I don't know. Well, the part of the issue is like they both said that if they were president right now, they would just make anything associated with the coronavirus. The government's going to cover it. We'll cover it completely. But the issue that I got is on the right. I know that, but on the way home, I was listening to NPR, and one of the people that was on there was someone who had been tested positive for the coronavirus, and she said she got a huge bill, and they said that they're not testing, or they're not charging for the coronavirus test and for everything else, but before they'll do the coronavirus test, they're going to do 10, 15 other tests, all these other things. And like, okay, this is now that we know it's not any of this stuff. Now we're going to do that one. All those previous ones and all that previous stuff, that is all considered under deductible or not under deductible. And you're going to pay out of pocket for that. So all the other stuff that they'll do before they'll look at the really important one that everybody's worried about, that's thousands and thousands of dollars. And so like part of it is like it's a healthcare system itself. And it's also people who go into the doctor and they say, okay, I want a coronavirus test. I do not want anything else. You know, those kinds of things, like having that kind of autonomy when it comes to your healthcare system, whatever. Both Biden and Sanders both said that they think, or they would let any cost associated with this testing and stuff like that be, covered by the fundamental by the government. But it's whether or not the healthcare system is going to milk you out for all the other tests and stuff that are unnecessary. That's the crazy part, is they'll just do that. I mean, I had a $600 bill for 4 people to get tested for the flu a month ago. Like, it's just 10 minutes per person. I wish I made that at an hourly rate. You know what I mean? Like $600 in 40 minutes.
We'd all be rich, right?
Yeah,
$600 an hour.
But I guarantee you they did not pay that doctor that $600 for 40 minutes. Who is making all that money? Who
insurance companies
is making all the money? Yes, the people at the top. That's where that money is going. So, anyway, we should definitely cover it. Sports ball, puck people should have some kind of umbrella that covers them when it comes to this stuff, and anything involved with the coronavirus should be covered, because that's just the right thing to do.
Yep. So as we end the show out tonight, we have some positive news. And Buddy brought this up. Yeah, it does a little bit.
This is great. I also retweet what you wrote about it in the notes, and this is just perfect. So you wrote this as segment coronavirus and a vaccine, and I wrote AKA Canada is saving the world.
Dude, I saw it, and I saw it, and the first person I thought it was you, and I thought you were gonna gloat like a son of a bitch, and I was right.
I honestly, after having to talk about how embarrassed I am about my local hockey team, this makes me feel happy. So, in January, the University of Saskatchewan received permission from the Public Health Agency of Canada to start working on a vaccine for COVID-19. And since then, those researchers have been receiving grants to help along the process. I think they just received $1 million for this. Now, as we know, it could take up to a year to complete. They are currently, it looks like they are moving into animal testing, which is a good sign, because the next step after that would be human testing. Currently, they don't have a release timeline for human usage, simply because these sorts of things require and I looked up the specific terms of this, a metric fuck ton and a half of science in order to complete. Now, what they did
that's the metric units for all the American out here that they literally have a unit for that, right?
Yeah, metric fuck ton and a half. Yeah,
fuck ton. It sounds like a Fallout name. Something.
That's 837 bottle caps.
Oh, good to know.
That's cheap. Shit, you're talking probably tens of thousands of bottle caps.
I never played Fallout, so I don't know how much a bottle cap is worth anymore.
I didn't either, but I still know those things.
Yes. So the SARS outbreak actually provided an idea for research as to what their vaccine would have to look like. I guess the virus for SARS is very similar. I think it might have also been a coronavirus, just not the novel COVID-19 coronavirus. But it's been estimated that up to 70% of Canadians could be affected by an uncontained pandemic. And I kind of laugh at that because I can't find canned goods, toilet paper, or wet wipes any friggin' where. But the news that Canada is close to human trials for a vaccine for the novel COVID-19 virus prompted a freaking hilarious comment that I found on Reddit about the NHL hockey being canceled. So of course Canadians had to knock the bitch down. That made me laugh. And I thought I would share that with you guys because Canada's trying to save everyone. We're trying, guys. I mean, except for Karen, who, she spent an hour and a half on Google one day and learned all about how evil vaccines are from Andrew Wakefield. But,
Dude,
we don't want to save her because, that's dangerous.
I had someone at work say, I was reading these things online. And, it was just a bad thing.
So, all I could think in response to that was that meme where it's Trump and they've distorted his face and it's like inaudible screeching.
Yeah, it was bad. So, anyways, Canada working hard to find the vaccine. And like I said, whoever finds it, there's a huge economic incentive for said people. Because let's face it, not everyone is going to be Jonas Salk and give away their vaccine. What was his? Was he did the? Was he smallpox? Jonas Salk? Yeah,
that's a good question. Actually,
I can't remember if he was smallpox or if he was polio. Yes. So Salk, yeah. But I honestly don't think that kind of altruism is a real thing because trickle down, it doesn't exist.
Although most pharmaceutical companies like vaccines don't make them money. But however, I can say that will be one hell of a marketing campaign, and because you could basically optimism. I'm trying, damn it, I'm trying. You could be like, we're the ones who found a vaccine for this pandemic.
Mm-hmm.
You should listen to us. Your next 10 years of marketing are pretty much figured out.
Yeah, definitely.
Just don't lose it.
So Tanner, do you have a quick save, or is it me up next?
I do have a quick save, ironically enough. For me this week, the quick save is a little different, right? I'll be honest, it's a little older, but the Today Show, and I'm saying this, and maybe I'll bring it into the stream. Hold on. The Today Show actually had a segment that I couldn't believe was on, right? Just couldn't believe it. They have, oh my God, stupid ad blocker.
You must give them free
ads.
Yeah, to allow them to just dump everything.
Yeah. Oh my God, and then it's gonna
the end of my world.
Commercials.
I unleash it.
Tour? I'll turn you all into rock.
The trolls. The trolls are the worst things.
Well,
although I will say, at least it's like popular music that they cover.
Fair enough. So the thing here is the reason I picked this is not because of the trolls. So it's definitely not that. It's because of the fact of what they're promoting. The Today Show, and again, this is a Today Show. I was very surprised by this. Oh, hey, wait, here it comes. They talked about
Nancy Dawson's 10-year-old came out as transgender.
They talk about transgender people and giving them free clothes.
As soon as we started recognizing Phoebe as Phoebe, she really blossomed.
When I first started wearing clothes that kind of matched
pillows,
my identity, it was really affirming, and it felt like I could express outwardly how I felt on the inside.
But shopping for those new clothes was a challenge.
There wasn't a safe space we could go and just try on dresses and skirts without being judged or looked at.
So when her friend Tristan posted something online, Nancy got an idea.
One of my friends put up a meme that was saying that we should not do gender reveal parties. We should do showers for people that are transitioning. And I said,
Exactly.
we got to do this.
Yay,
let's
cool.
just do it.
Nancy suggesting they use the back room of her bridal makeup business.
Yeah.
Within an hour, she was on FaceTime with me, showing me downstairs the back room, and she's like, "Can you do this here?" We were like, "Yeah, let's do it."
I found this
Together
this
with
whole
Phoebe's
thing on there very neat, and the reason I chose this as my quick save is for the pure fact that it was like, hey, here we go. We've got people working to make others, but it's humanism 101. You know, people are transitioning. They don't have a place to go. This lady's helping to offer wardrobes for that. And I mean, like, I cried. I'll be honest, you know, and it's only because I've had some friends that have transitioned probably.
Mhm.
So it is close to home. You know, like I have friends that transition, and something like this, especially in their teenage years, would help them off the charts. So we talk about the rule of two, you know, we talk about the Sith Lords of the Democrats, right? And if one of them had mentioned this or brought this up, we'd be like, oh, maybe you're a Jedi Knight. Maybe that's what you are. Maybe you're a Jedi Knight here. Maybe you're Yoda. I don't know. But there you go. Exactly. And I think I don't know. I thought it was very neat because this, and again, I get it because, you know, it's the mother, it's her thing, you know, it's her kid, but she wanted to create a non-judgmental space where transgender teens can try on clothes, can get clothes for free. And it's 100%, you know, like covered for them. And so I don't know. For me, it was a very refreshing segment on a very populous TV network.
Absolutely. That's fantastic.
It is. It's a great example of small businesses doing the right thing and showing you that community values actually do trump economic values. I mean, people look at that like if you were a bean counter, if you were a guy sitting in an office in a cubicle somewhere, and you look at that and said, "This isn't going to make us any money. Why would we do this? This is a terrible idea." You know, there's just a tiny subset of people in this country that don't have any major economic value. Why would we do this? Well, because it's the right thing to do to help people. That's not that weird. But when it comes to, you know, just cold capitalism, they're not going to see this as a value. So small businesses, small communities, those are the things that are going to grow this kind of idea, and that's awesome. I mean, I think I actually saw this. I didn't watch the video, but I saw the headline, and I was like, that's cool.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Super cute.
So my quick save is something really simple. It's this week was gardening week for me, essentially. Like my daughter and I, my oldest Aveline, we basically do the it looks like my mic got muted for a second. Anyways, so my daughter Aveline and I, we do these. If you take just a seed and throw it in a Ziploc bag, and you put it on a paper towel and just dampen it. So like soak the paper towel, wring it out so that all the water's out and the paper towel is damp. Throw it in a Ziploc bag, write on it what seed is in there, and then, you know, a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, you keep an eye on each seed's germination period. You can see the sprouts coming out and throw them in some dirt, and you got something like that. But like everybody talks about being organic or being healthier eating or something like that. Like I'm involving my kids in the actual growth process. Last year was an experiment in gardening, and it was awesome. The cherry tomatoes and the pepper plants were a huge success. My oldest was Aveline was always picking the bad flowers. Eloise is too small still, so she might help a little bit this year. But like just having like a garden, having greenhouses. I bought these little $20 greenhouses from IKEA that are probably, you know, incredibly terribly carbon footprinty, but either way, it's a ton of fun, and it's completely analog. There is no digital anything happening here. We were sitting at the counter squirting water on a paper towel and throwing seeds into it. It's just something that's really cool. We're gonna go outside and play in the dirt as far as the summer comes on. So I recommend everyone just maybe just get a little pot, a little thing that you can do, a little planter or something.
I'll
you
get
can
a
throw
little
out.
pot. Don't worry.
In Michigan, you can. In Ohio, we got nothing. But just grow something. It doesn't matter what it is. Just like an herb or something.
I'll grow something. Don't worry.
Grow you something from herbs.
Grow, yes.
And pack that bowl for two, right? Yes. So
Rule 2.
And but just give it a shot. Like, you might enjoy it. You can keep it alive for long enough. Maybe next year you'll grow twice as many things. I genuinely enjoyed gardening. It was something that I didn't expect to, but it's a lot of fun. And we started it. This is the start now in the new house and everything. My kids definitely seem to enjoy it. So I recommend it for anyone that's looking for a low cost thing that you can do with your family.
Cute.
Fair enough. I don't know. I think it was a fun show. I chided you a little bit about your Bernie stance. I mean, we had a good debate. It's kind of funny, like we talk about these things, we have these discussions all the time. And, it's kind of like one of those things where if we don't challenge each other, where are we at? Like
It's pointless. It's pointless. It's just a giant circle jerk and the Canadians are laughing at us.
And I think you and I disagree enough that it makes a difference.
Yeah,
so
it's important.
I
don't think we entirely disagreed. We just had different points. Like, it's, I don't know. In the end, it's just a fun conversation, a little nitpicking over the details. I enjoy it. I enjoy someone that's not going to call me a Bernie bro and ban me, which happened twice this week.
What?
Well, if you post your name as Bernie bro, you deserve to be banned. I don't care what you say. I'm just gonna make
I'm trying to reappropriate the term.
Nope, not. All right, that's pretty awful right there. Pretty white of you, buddy.
Yeah, I know. Sometimes you gotta be as pale as I am.
No,
you can see through me sometimes.
That's not how that works. Anyway, thank you all so much for Thank you all so much for joining us in Cellar Door Skeptics. We'll be back next week with another amazing episode. Have a good night, everyone.